exactly what they were putting together. They knew that
Tony, can you talk about
contains the step-by-step of what the British did to arrive at 1914, step by step. They had this protectorate, Lagos colony, Oil Rivers colony, all the treaties they had with us. They first pieced all those territories together in 1906 to form the protectorate of southern Nigeria. And then between that 1906 and the 1914 that they made the announcement, they went step by step, merging what they needed to merge in order to turn it, without talking to the owners of the place. They were just doing it, them and the caliphate. The caliphate came earlier than them. The caliphate came by jihad in 1804. So it was actually a joint venture. What we need to know at this time is that the creation of Nigeria was actually a joint venture between that caliphate that arrived in 1804 and the British that arrived in the 1860s. To the exclusion of the owners of the land. They were both foreigners. They were on an invasion for economic, purpose, and they brought together what they had by conquest. The Caliphate had the territory that we now call Sharia Belt, and the British had the southern territories. It was the terms of merging them that we find in the documents we're talking about. The terms of merging them clearly put the Caliphate in charge and ahead of all the other people. For instance, it is in that document that we saw what we call the Nigerian system, in which things are put upside down. Mediocrity, ignorance, and terror was embedded. It's in black and white that they will have to elevate ignorance to where it rules above knowledge. And so what became quota system later, which is now in our constitution, was a matter of principle as at that time to lower the bar for the people they are going to put in charge. So that Buhari without a school certificate can go all the way to becoming a general, becoming a head of state and then president 2 times over. Whereas all the people who are a lot more qualified than him are not accepted into the army. It was a principle and it has become the quota system we know today. The corruption we see today, they have principles that became constitutional provisions that now translate into the kind of appropriation provisions we have in the constitution. What was the plan? The British came here to take whatever they can take for their own use. And by the time they were working out what would be their appropriation arrangements, in that 1912 document, they already made provisions for the people they put in government house by themselves. They authorized them to take 50% of whatever they find in treasury into one pocket for their own, whatever they do with, they choose to do with it. Then the balance is also to be managed in such a manner that creates the impression that it's public fund, but it can be, they're just looking like, but it's all at their discretion what their preferences are for using even that 50%. When you read from how it is, captured in the document, you will then understand how we came about the situation where half of what comes in is taken as, what do they call it, security vote by both president and governor. They don't account to anybody for that portion. And then the balance of what you find in the treasury, which you find in the appropriation provisions for how it is managed, those appropriation provisions actually give the spare keys to the treasury, to the heads of the executive branch. Nigeria is the only country in the world where the president can, under the constitutional arrangement, go to take all of what you find in treasury without reference to anybody, and the governors in the same, and they have immunity. All those things were contained in those documents we're talking about, the principles by which that Nigerian system will be operated. And you go from impunity to immunity that sustains it. You go to the appropriation that gives the spare key to the executive branch. You go to all of the things that now has brought Nigeria to where it is, in which the fate of all, even the matter of the rule of law. In other countries, the executive, the police is put under the watch of the judiciary, so that at any point in time, the judge makes an order. Somebody is carrying out that order. But in that document that predated 1914, they turned it upside down to say that it is the executive that will decide what they will obey, what they will enforce in the orders of the judiciary. And so it's only in Nigeria that the head of the executive is the one appointing the judges, is the one holding the money by which they operate, and can remove them or install them. You saw what happened to the Chief Justice of the Federation, Onogen. At the time they were getting to election, they knew Onogen as Chief Justice of the Federation of Nigeria will not, may stop them in what they were planning to do with the election. And so they just removed him and put this herdsman that they call Tanko as the Chief Justice of the Federation. And what has anybody done about it? Because it was within the competence of the executive branch to do all of what they did. So these documents I'm talking about is where those principles that have now produced the Master Servant Nigeria came from. They carried it from that point to the Order in Council of 1913 that became the amalgamation of 1st January of 1914. They carried it through to 1922 to 1946. I'm sure you heard about McPherson and Littleton and Richardson constitutions. All those things were maintained all the way to the Lancaster House. They managed to retain what they could retain. Then the war came, the 1966 came. Everything we had altered from what they put in place, they managed to put back, which was what they collected in 1979, that became 1999. So our sovereignty had been suppressed. What we have as Nigeria, our project, had been a suzerainty, a replacement suzerainty from the British we were seeing before. Is now a local suzerainty organized by the Caliphate, the Fulani. And so we are fighting for our independence all over again. Anybody who doesn't understand that should understand that. That is our freedom we are fighting for, like those who fought the British off. We are now fighting off these local colonizers. And we have to be very careful in how we do it, because their answer to every question is to shoot at everybody. But what did we do in response to that question of gun? Our alliance already puts them as a minority, even without more. They know that if they try to start a fight now, they're going to be isolated into the hopeless minority they are. That's why they opened the borders to bring Fulani from all over the place and to bring ISIS to support them. Even now, their numbers are nowhere near what they need to be able to prevail. It's just our ignorance that is sustaining them. Second, we were able to get to the US because we knew the matter would go to the UN. Who in the UN? The British stood with them in 1966, 67, in the one that became the Biafra War. The British went to the Security Council, took the oil that they already had, because Shell was alone at the time in this place. The British, seeing that the entire stock of oil will go with Eastern region that wanted to leave Nigeria, they took over the task of stopping the East. And so they took the entire 100% stock, 40% of it, to the UN Security Council. They gave the other 4 members of the Security Council concessions from that 40%. That's how Gulf oil got here, the Chevron, for the US to look away from the killing they were going to do. That's how F got here for France. That's how Egypt got here for Italy. All members of the Security Council at that time. Russia had oil at home, and so didn't need any part of that. What they gave Russia was an open order to supply all the hardware for that war. So Russia supplied the jet fighters, they call MiG jet fighters, the Ilyushin armored tanks, and the AK-47. That's how Nigeria came about AK-47. Now, the money to pay for all of that, Gowon has signed off on the concessions as written by the British. So look, leave it to us. We will stop them. But you see, sign these papers for us. So Gowon signed off the oil and gas assets of Eastern Nigeria for 50 years to Britain to do with it as they like and give only from part of their profit to the NNPC they eventually set up. And so we are still living with that arrangement. That's what this PIB, you see, nobody has been able to, unravel what they put in place that makes Nigeria just, an appendage to, they own their assets. They own their assets. And so I'm just reporting to us that all these things were, designed to be so. What the British did at that time, they are not able to do now, because we were able to get to the US to point to them their national security, interest that was going to suffer in our sub-region. If I had the facility of a map, again, I would have shown us the West African sub-region and what ISIS is doing in the sub-region. So we told the US that if you do not come now, ISIS has moved away from the Middle East and they are now in the West African sub-region, welcomed by Nigeria at the level of its president. And if you will not listen to us, they are going to reinforce themselves and build up that caliphate they wanted to do with Iraq and Syria. And if that happens, the US will pay in blood. The US took 7 months to listen to what we were showing them. The evidence was brought about the involvement of our president in welcoming ISIS into our sub-region. Our president was at the center of what became Boko Haram the way we know it. Our president was at the center of how Boko Haram merged with the ISIS to form ISWAP in 2014. And the moment he pushed his way to power, his kinsmen declared themselves Fulani herdsmen that began to sack communities into what we have seen to date, sweeping southwards. And so we got the US to see their national security interests in that field. It was because the US took interest on account of their own national security that they began to talk to their allies. I'm sure we also in April, when in a space of 48 hours, the US, the EU, and the UK took a common position in alignment with the contents of our force majeure. They told Nigeria that guns will not feature in this debate because they have their own objective in the field. The ISIS that is here, it is by that our local initiative that they are going to be able to contain that threat. It is by this force majeure that constitution that empowers the Fulani to do what they are doing will go down. So the US and its allies, you remember.
Please mute your line. Please mute your line.
Right. You know, so we will recall that in 2019 and the early part of 2020, the former US President Trump had built a 67-country alliance to address this issue. You remember when they put Nigeria on special watch list for these ethno-religious killings. We also remember when I think it was in March of 2020, Nigeria was designated a country of particular concern and state sponsor of terror, along with Iran. And so we have all of that. Let nobody, Britain that ruled the seas in 1967 is not in that cannot today put a carrier to sea. Britain does not have one carrier because it cannot afford it. It's no longer in a position to do the kind of thing it did against us the other time. But we didn't leave it to chance. We went to a superpower, the US, that had national security imperative in our sub-region. And our pursuit is aligned to that interest. And therefore, they are on our side. That was why I'm sure I reported a few minutes ago that we've been having meetings with them at the highest level concerning what is going on, especially since after Afghanistan. What we agreed to do to solve this problem so that it doesn't consume us and create massive problems for them too is what they are going back to now, because the elections of November last year seem to have slowed things down, but the operatives have come back to going back to what they agreed to do with us. I can assure us that we have what we need at the UN, including the Security Council. I can assure us we have what we need in the US, concerning what to do with these people pointing guns at us. If we do our own part, the national strategy, the national security strategy of the US is actually anchored on this local initiative because of the broad policy of not wanting to send boots to the ground in foreign places. I'm just reporting all of this to us in the background for us to know that the plan we have deployed, we're not just scratching our heads, every step of the way. We have a written plan and we're going to share it, we're going to authorize the sharing of the aspects of that written plan that people need to have as answers to these questions that are going to be recurring. We have a plan, everybody can interrogate that plan, and we can measure by ourselves where it will land. That's why I want to drop that.
Awesome. Now, so that kind of answers that question. I think the question that Gogo was asking was, why are we going to the United Nations and to those countries when they are not our friends, so to speak? So that kind of puts that in perspective about the fact that we have our different objectives that are aligned in this case, and that the world is taking notice as to what's going on. The UN itself, through its couple of special rapporteurs, one in 2019 and another in 2020, made it clear to the world that Nigeria, if it blows, it's not just going to blow Africa, it's going to blow the world. And that's part of the information that we were communicating while we were in New York, making it clear, that Nigeria is on the point of snapping and something needs to be done quickly. So I'm going to go and take some questions now. We don't have a heck of a lot of time, and so we might have to talk about the fake protesters in the next broadcast. So I'm going to come to Stephen. Stephen, do you have a question? And if you can get it short so that we can move on to the other questions. Thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jean. Tony, thank you for the exhaustive work that you've been doing on ground zero for this self-determination effort. But notwithstanding those, there is still a pervasive misunderstanding of the role of NINAS in the self-determination effort, to the extent that a number of the alliance members, organizations, not the alliance members themselves, but the supportive nationality organizations, consider NINAS to be just another group in the COG, with the implication that we are finding resistance in raising funds to fund the activities of NINAS. Case in point was the recent New York rally. In my explanation to them, and to bring it to a layman's level, I've described NINAS to them as a class action attorney, for which the class members are the alliance members, such that when you have a class action attorney, you are individually obligated to support the activities of advocating for you before the United Nations Court, if I can use that term. Is that analogy reasonably accurate to get them to a layman's understanding of what NINAS does, or would you propose another analogy that will bring NINAS' role to a layman's level? Thank you.
Yeah, that analogy creates the impression that because there have been a deliberate misinformation crafted for the purpose of deflecting people's attention from where the solution is to where others can make money pretending they are solving the problem. That's what happened. The people that crafted that narrative of as if we're just a marginal group of people who want to come to take advantage because maybe we have better education or better exposure or better access. That's the impression that was being created. But the reality is that what became NINAS had gone through. Did you hear about Pronaco when it happened? Have you ever heard about Pronaco?
Yes.
Did you hear about Pronaco?
Not recently. I thought you were saying Nadeko or something like that.
No. Did you get to hear about Pronaco when it happened? Pronaco.
No, sir.
I'm going to share that information on the platform.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm just informing us that what has been presented as NINAS is a continuous process that has taken 22 years in the making. And Pronaco that happened between 2005 and 2006, in fact, it was first announced in 2004, before Obasanjo jumped in to set up what became 2005 National Conference. Pronaco was pro-national organizations. It was a sovereign meeting of the ethnic nationalities across Nigeria, including the Fulani. And you are hearing the voice of the one at the center of that process, which was the first action taken after our research for what the problem was and what the solution should be. and we had 164 ethnic delegations that sat for 2 years. The US sent observer mission to that conference. The EU sent observer mission to that conference. So we didn't just go bump into the US last night to tell them about what's happening to us. They've been following this process since 2005 when they sent observer mission to that conference of the Nationalities of Nigeria, sovereign conference. And so we went from that PRONACO to 2007 when we went to court to say that we didn't make the 1999 constitution. And the person speaking now was a lawyer that filed that suit, challenging the legitimacy of the 1999 constitution. And I had 10 plaintiffs, the first of which was Chief Anthony Enohoro, the very man that moved the motion for independence. The second plaintiff, Wole Soyinka Professor. Third plaintiff, C.C. Ono. I'm sure most of us know Bianca's father. The fifth plaintiff, Chief Bankole Oki. Bankole Oki, senior advocate. At the time, he was the chairman of the body of senior advocates in Nigeria. Bankole Oki, as permanent secretary of the Ministry of Defense, was the one that carved out the Nigerian Air Force from the Nigerian Army. We had Bishop Bolanle Bonigi of Akure, retired Anglican Archbishop. We had Fred Agbegbe, the president of Lower Niger Congress, who also had been involved in his first job from university in the UK. He has 2 PhDs in law from 2 UK universities, but he began his career at the Commonwealth headquarters. He joined the Commonwealth services the same day as Emeka Anyoko, to tell you the kind of people who have been in this process. Then we have Ojukwu, I'm not sure I've mentioned him, as another plaintiff. And we had Asari Dokubo was undergoing trial for treason at the time, and was put them as plaintiffs. That was what collapsed the treason, because we wanted to test whether Nigeria has any answer to the challenge, to their title document by which they are laying claim to the whole country. They didn't have an answer, and it was that suit challenging the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution that collapsed the treason trial of Asari Dokubo and Wazirike in 2007. So we moved on from there, having established that Constitution was a fraud. How do we enforce? How do we bring it down? We went on to calling the nationalities to now begin to take actions, get ready to take back their sovereignty. We asked them to hold their solemn assemblies, tell the international community that you are no longer willing to work with this forgery. The Lower Niger had their own solemn assembly, and you can test what I'm telling you by just going to YouTube or Google now. Solemn Assembly of the Peoples of the Lower Niger, 27th April 2015 in Port Harcourt, where the Ijaw, the Ogoni, the Anang, the Efik, the Urobo, the Bini, the Igbo, under one roof, took a decision that this constitution will no longer be basis of union they will be involved in. And they mandated the Charter of Relationship to be still. How are we going to relate amongst ourselves if we are rejecting Nigeria? In September of 2017, the Yoruba gathered in Adamasingba Stadium in Ibadan with all their governors present. Oni was there and many of their political leaders. They filled the stadium, and it was solemn Yoruba solemn assembly. I'm sure you remember that. It was all a part of this process. Then the Middle Belt on the 18th of July in 2018 were able to do their own. What we were doing in all that time was to send the message to the international community ahead of when we begin to enforce our decision to reject the union defined by that constitution under which we are being killed. So it's not a NINAS is just the latest mutation in terms of name. We went from PRONACO to Movement for New Nigeria to even change Nigeria. I'm sure you heard when Bakare came out talking about Save Nigeria. We had transmuted to what we call Change Nigeria. Bakare came and pretended in our midst for about 9 months. We didn't know he had political intentions. So he thought he could take the crowd countrywide to go to contest election with Buhari. Not knowing that Buhari had been in our midst and we had done away with him because he came back to tell us after the conference of Pronaco that he will do what we have decided if we supported him to win. I told him in the meeting where he came to make that request that the question is not one of to government house. If you believe in what we have agreed upon, let us do it before you go to government house. Otherwise, if you decide to go to government house under this constitution we are rejecting, you will have us to contend with. That was 2007. He lost that election, lost the 1 or 2-11 when Bakare had come to try to mess up. We shut down that Change Nigeria platform. Did you see Save Nigeria again since after that time? You understand? So it is something, it's a machinery, like a submarine, big submarine, that have been sailing quietly. It was designed to be a surprise. The British didn't see it coming. All of the Caliphate didn't see it coming. The only time we came close to being found out for the size of what we were doing, you remember in 2005, when the US intelligence raised alarm that there was something going on that could bring Nigeria to ruins by 2015. It was 2005. Did anybody hear about John Negro pointed on Nigeria that was going to collapse? It was when they stumbled across this plan. They came to Nigeria to investigate it. They went to a Nohoro, and the Nohoro called me in. The Consul General of the US was in that meeting with a few other people from State Department. Sometime 2004, when we had announced that we're going to have a conference of the owners of Nigeria. So it's not something for people who are saying who are thinking that NINAS is just another one of the organizations. Let us ask them which of them had diagnosed the problem to the point of breaking into accounts to find out what the British did. Which of them had identified the constitution of that as the problem that had to be solved in terms of taking it down to end the union? Which of them had moved from their own space to the other spaces in that country? We went, all the groups were carrying arms at the time. All the groups that were fed up with Nigeria to the point of, resorting to violence. We were able to persuade them to come along, put their guns aside. They decided to occupy his volunteer force. The Ghanaian Dance and its OPC at the time. We were able to get all of them to come and be part of that conference to form a consensus that will take down what we were rejecting. And so let those who are talking about, another NINAS being another, it is the cumulative, outcome of many years of involving the entire country, minus the caliphate that didn't want to come along at some point. That's what has become NINAS. So
Okay. Sorry, Tony. We have a few more minutes to go, so I wanted to see if
in the Senate. So speak in the House.
Yeah, I wanted to see if I could take some more questions because we're going to be ending in a few minutes here. We've got a couple of hands up. So I will go to, because that was a great explanation as to, what NINAS is doing. And I will share the document with everyone that shows all the different stages that this has gone through, because that gives you a better appreciation of what NINAS is doing for the Blocs, has been doing for the Blocs. And that has been powered really by the Lower Niger Congress and funded mainly by the Lower Niger Congress. So now I'm going to go to Alexander. Please keep your question really short because we only have a few minutes left. Alexander, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Thank you very much, Mama Jane, and thank you for everyone in the house. I don't really have a question. I just want to commend the NINAS. It baffles me, and I want to say this is God's project. And Tony Nandi is born for this project. And all the leadership of NINAS, how you came together, it's a divine arrangement. And the goal of NINAS will be achieved.
Amen.
By the grace of God, I live in Edo State, and NINAS has become one of my prayer projects. And by the grace of God, we shall get there. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Amen. Amen. Emoro, you are up next, and please keep it short. Emoro, go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Well, quickly, first of all, I just want to say the name, are we NINAS or I say NINAS? So I need to be corrected. I say NINAS, but is it NINAS or NINAS? And then the second, but
it's
anyway, NINAS, okay.
Call it what you may.
Okay.
It's abbreviation. It's an
as long as you call it freedom.
But anyway, it's communication. We know what we're talking about. Then the other thing I want to ask is, well, first of all, also, I do want to say thank you, Mr. Nadi, for all that you're doing. I met you in the summer of...
Sorry, can you go ahead and ask your question, because we're getting ready to go off air. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, so it was an eye-revealing time. I just wanted to say that my question is simply this. If the...
Okay, you need to go off camera.
That's not...
You need to go off camera because we can't hear you.
I'm sorry?
You need to go off camera because we cannot hear you.
Off camera, so I hear you.
Yeah, no, my question is, if the British signed a 50-year agreement on the oil with, I guess, the government would go on, is that time not expired now?
Yeah, that was in 1960. That was in 1967. It expired 2017. That was what drove the 2019 election. That was what drove the 2015 election into the overdrive we saw. They did not want this president from that part of the country to be the one in this at the time the renewal will be due in 2017. That was what consumed Jonathan's presidency. Nothing beyond that. Everything is make-believe. Okay. The decision to stop a person from that part from being in the time the renewal will happen. That was what brought the coalition against Jonathan in the manner we saw.
Okay. We have
finished in 2017.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a couple more questions. Let's see. I think Ibe, you had your hand up if you want to ask a question.
Okay, thank you, Jane. My name is Paul Ibekeme.
Ibekeme.
Yes, I'm in Massachusetts. Please, I want to thank Mr. Tony for all he has been doing. I've been following his activities and comments, and he has done a lot himself and his group. My question is this. How can we...
Thank you. Go on.
Okay. Now that we are moving forward, and we've seen that some of these governors in the South and the governor of Benin in particular from the Middle Belt have seen what these Fulanis are up to. Is there any way NINAS can open, even if it's a backdoor channel, to start to tell them what NINAS is doing, to get them to join NINAS and stop anything about the election?
Okay, Paul, I'm going to answer that. Yes, that started back in March when we had the World Press Conference, and we're going to start talking to people. So I'm going to go to the next question. Sorry.
Sorry, please, Jane. Not just the governors alone, but other political actors in the South and Middle Belt. So
yes. The answer is yes, Paul. The answer is yes, Paul. We gotta move on. The answer is yes.
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
okay. Evangelist, you gotta keep it really short, really short. So you're up next.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane, and everybody for what God has used us for. Yeah, Tony. I just need you to quickly tell and clarify to everybody here at this meeting right now, and especially indirectly to all these people gathering to have another rally, the 3 days rally at the Washington, D.C. next weekend. Okay, the reason why NINAS NINAS headed by Akintoye, chairman, in conjunction with Ilana Omo-Oduwa, came up with that release. What is it called again? That disclaimer. And these people went ahead to release another disclaimer against Nina and Babakitoye disclaimer, which was very insultive to me. That's how I see it personally. What is Nina's stand presently for and against or about that next weekend 3 days rally? Even though they have removed iPod's name, Nnamdi Kanu's picture and stuff, like they're trying to read this thing because
stop sharing your screen. Thank you. Go ahead.
So, because I see some of the members of that group on this meeting, I'm sure some of them still need orientation. Some of them need to be more educated and enlightened. So, what do you say about that 3 days listing rally? Because personally, I can't be putting all this effort, and some people are trying to draw us back, 10 steps back when we make one step forward. Thank you.
Okay, Tony, are you still there?
I didn't hear his question.
The question is about the mega rally that is scheduled to go to Washington, that's supposed to be going on in Washington, and the fact that previously, they said that previously that the information with IPOB, that they had moved away from that. And so Evangelist is asking, given that they have said that they are no longer working with IPOB, for that rally, what is NINA's position now?
Well, the NINA's position is already contained in that disclaimer said that if they work with the Yoruba coordinating platform Ilana, because we wanted to make sure that everybody involved gets to know exactly what we're doing. They can make their own internal arrangements of who is taller and who is shorter in-house. It won't be anybody's business, but it has to be what we set in place to do that is being done. If they've done away with IPOB, I would think that they will have to write it and say so that, because it's not just what we think. The Nigerian system is going to take advantage of anything they find there. We already saw it from Garba Shehu and Bajabia Mila. They were laying a foundation for how they could disrupt us. They've not found any ground for being able to disrupt us all this while. But if they find something to latch onto, they are going to disrupt NINAS in the homeland. And it's not overseas that we're going to solve this problem. We need to keep engaging them here until we bring them to the ground. And so if the organizers of Washington rally, with the video that went out about, involving, showing that they were planning it together with IPOB, I would say that they only need to clarify in writing, some public notice that these people are not involved because of that video. If it was a matter of we heard that they were planning, that's a different thing. But that video has gone everywhere, and it was becoming basis of linking NINAS, since our chairman and Lana people, whose emblem also appeared in that advertisement, are connected with NINAS intricately. So it's just a question of if they can do a public notification explaining those people and explaining that video as something that was unauthorized, however they put it. Then we go back to what we wrote in that disclaimer, that we have no problem. We invited everybody to come, but not the ones that will cause problems for us. Let them just let it be put in the public space that the organizers of the rally, they have to disown that video and say that they're not involved with these people anymore. If we leave it hanging, and it may leave a gap that can become a problem for us. NINAS really has no quarrel with anybody, but let us say it clearly so that we don't leave room for the enemy that's looking for how to create a problem for us. Let us say clearly we're not working with these people on account of some difficulties that could arise from it or whatever reason we give, because we get them. These people have 7 years to listen to us. We begged and begged until it became bloodshed in the East. And it can only get worse. NINAS all of us may fail if we don't find a way to, let them be. They can come, but let them put away their colors. They can come if they want that outcome. We made a broadcast inviting them, but we say, put away let everybody come as if they want the outcome. Why can't they come and support the rally without coming to say they're the ones doing it in their own colors?
Okay, so I think that I did stop the live streaming so that we can take some more questions. I think that the question has been answered. The issue, as noted, is a fact that IPOB is the Nigerian government views them a certain way, and the Nigerian government has been trying to connect them to any of the NINAS blocks so that they can shut down that block. And we've been trying to explain to the IPOB folks that it's nothing personal, but they can't be coming to join us if they are going to be flying their colors. If they're coming to join us, they have to come in under NINAS without any of their colors, without their flags, without anything. They have to come under NINAS and support that jailbreak. So what Tony's saying is that this mega rally needs to make a public disclaimer and make it public that they are not working with IPOB, and IPOB is not working with them on this rally. That this is a rally that is going to be going on under the referendum objectives that that NINAS and the Yoruba Bloc is supporting, and that anyone that is invited, everyone is invited. However, you gotta set aside whatever your colors are. You gotta come under the NINAS and the Yoruba Nation colors, and that's what it has to be. Because we do not want our people to be shot at. I made that perfectly clear in New York.